We are just 17 months into something quite remarkable, given that two-thirds of the seats in the House of Commons are held by Keir Starmer's Labour Party. Yes, I know they only got a third of the vote, but that really isn't the point. But they have sunk. His personal popularity is now down, can you believe it, to only 13%. Only 13% of the latest Ipsos Mori poll think the PM is doing a good job. Last week, there were two opinion polls that put Labour fourth behind now the resurgent hard left Greens. So it's no real wonder that the backbenchers are getting pretty unhappy because, above all, what they want to do is keep their seats at the next election. But it would now appear that the problem may not be just the backbenchers, but actually the front benches as well. And Kerry Badenoch was, I have to say, perhaps doing better today than she does at some PMQs. And she was questioning the Prime Minister's right-hand man, Morgan McSweeney. Have a look at this.
Just last night, his allies accused not just the Health Secretary, but the Home Secretary and even the Energy Secretary of launching leadership bids. These attacks came from number 10, nowhere else, his toxic number 10. The person responsible for the culture in number 10 is his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. Does the Prime Minister have full confidence in him?
Morgan McSweeney, my team and I are absolutely focused on delivering for the country. And let me be clear, of course, Mr. Speaker, I've never authorised attacks on Cabinet members. I appointed them to their posts because they're the best people to carry out their jobs.
So Starmer, McSweeney, Reeves, it's probable if one of them was to go, in the end, they would all go. No wonder he defends McSweeney. But McSweeney is the one trying to keep the party in the relatively sensible centre ground against the left-wing threat. Well, the man at the centre of all of this is the ever-ambitious Wes Streeting. And here he was performing this morning. And when you watch this, just think to yourself, is this somebody who's genuinely funny, or was it somewhat over-rehearsed?
Most unwarranted attack on a faithful since Joe Marler was banished in the Traitors final. And I think whoever's been briefing this should spend a little less time watching Celebrity Traitors and a bit more time watching Country File.
My view would be heavily over-rehearsed and not too genuine. But there's a website up and running. It's Wes for Leader. Now, that could be a bit of fun. But here's the serious bit. Starmer is clearly in very, very real trouble. There are elements of what we saw over the last 24 hours that reminded me ever so slightly of the beginning of the rebellion against Boris Johnson. And I don't think this is actually about policy or politics. I think it's about Starmer's personality. He's wooden. He doesn't connect with ordinary voters and ordinary people. He may be a perfectly decent human being, but he doesn't connect. So I want to ask you, is Starmer toast? I believe he is. I want your thoughts. Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. Joining me down the line to give me an expert opinion, somebody who is very good at reading the tea leaves of what's going on. Theo Usherwood, political journalist. Theo, is Starmer toast?
He's in difficulty. He's in serious difficulty because, and I was thinking about historically where we find ourselves in. And you know, Nigel, that if you go back to Margaret Thatcher, her ideas were hers. Blairism belonged to Tony Blair. Indeed, if you look at your reform and you look at your particular brand of right-wing populism, it is yours. If Christopher Hope or any other political editor wants to know what you're thinking, they ring you up. They don't go to a right-hand man who does your thinking for you. And the reason I mention this is if you look historically, if you go back to, for instance, Theresa May, it was always Nick Timothy who was her brains. Jeremy Corbyn, it was Seamus Milne. And the same is true with Morgan McSweeney and his relationship to Keir Starmer. He is the political brains of his operation. And the reason this is so important for all your listeners at home or viewers at home who might be thinking, well, is this just a Westminster SW1 bubble story? Is that if he loses McSweeney, he's done. Yeah. It's over. It's finished. Yeah. Morgan McSweeney is absolutely critical to the whole Starmerism project. He's the brains. He's the political brains behind the operation. And to your point about understanding the country, Indeed, if I think he was to go in to be sat in a room with yourself, or indeed those who advised Boris Johnson, and when he won that 80-seat majority, you might agree, you might disagree with how you get to the end point, the process, but the outcome of where this country is, what it feels, I think actually you probably have some common ground. But that isn't the same as the way the Labour Party feels. And so when this war, this civil war, broke into the open last night, it was a critical point, because right now, as you say, Labour MPs are looking to the leadership, they're looking to Keir Starmer, they've got a monumental budget coming up on the 26th of November. They're then facing wipeout in the elections in Scotland and Wales, and particularly in some metropolitan borough councils, where, to your point about the Greens, I think we're going to see the left really kick back against Starmer and Starmer's Labour. So I think there is a fundamental problem now that the MPs who won their seats back in July last year don't think that Starmer's the man to lead them into the next election, and they are now starting to openly talk about who should replace him. Wes Streeting is a canny operator. He knows the mistakes that Andy Burnham made by coming out into the open before the Labour conference. That's the end of that was the end of Andy Burnham's leadership challenge. So he's wise enough to try and put that to bed. But the fact that Morgan McSweeney, and they're going after Morgan McSweeney in number 10 as being the man who was responsible for those briefings last night. And Keir Starmer, it's all very well him saying, I didn't authorise the briefings, but ergo, he's then lost control of his number 10 operation.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course.
Because if he can't control who's briefing what.
Theo, you made the point. You made the point very, very well that Thatcher knew what she stood for, Blair knew what he stood for. Could you define Starmerism?
Well, I could only define it insofar as I could. I understand what Morgan McSweeney's about. I understand that he, and I knew him actually going back to 2010 much better, and he was part of a Labour crowd in Lambeth in South London. Previously, he'd worked in Barking as well. He understood the threat that Labour faced from the right, and he understood that in order to try and improve the lot of working people, there had to be substantive changes, and it was only that way that you could see off, dare I say it, reform and others, and indeed Boris Johnson's Conservative Party. But in terms of Keir Starmer, what Keir Starmer stands for, it's very difficult. No, I don't really understand what he stands for.
Nor do I.
But I do understand what Morgan McSweeney stands for, and that's probably more critical in terms of if he loses McSweeney, he's in real trouble.
Theo Usherwood, as ever, great analysis. Thank you for joining us this evening. Live down the line, I'm joined in the studio by Kwasi Kwarteng and the noble Lord Glasman. Interesting. I said that I thought that, what we saw there from Wes Streeting was a bit fake. But I think the point that he's playing his cards more cleverly than perhaps Andy Burnham's bullet a gate operation is perhaps a fair point.
Look, I think viewers, people should understand what happened today was extraordinary. You've got a Prime Minister. He's got a fairly tight, loyal operation. They've clearly briefed against senior cabinet ministers.
Yeah.
And instead of the cabinet ministers saying, of course, I would never want to lead the Labour Party and all the rest of it, he went on a full-on onslaught against the people around the Prime Minister.
And the toxic culture and all of that.
And he didn't have to say any of that.
No.
And that puts the Prime Minister in a very difficult position.
Because it questions the Prime Minister's judgment, doesn't it?
It does. And also, the Prime Minister at that point has a binary choice.
I love the Prime Minister. His advisors aren't very
That's
good.
right, that's right.
Well, who avoided
And the Prime Minister has to choose between his advisors or the Cabinet Minister. And Wes knew exactly what he was doing. He's effectively snookered
I think you're right.
Starmer. And I think Starmer's authority, such as he had any, is now a lot less now than it was yesterday.
Morris.
Yes, Nigel.
Labour pair.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Not been the best day, really, has it?
What's happened?
Come on. It's a mess, isn't it?
Look, I've got to be straight with your viewers, with you. Morgan McSweeney is a friend of mine. I actually saw him yesterday, and no discussion whatsoever about any of this. As your correspondent said, he's resolute about defining the direction of the government. So, Nigel, we can be competitive with you. So that this could be a real election about security, about borders, about the boats. I mean, Morgan McSweeney, I've known him since Dagenham, Barking and Dagenham, where we took on the BNP, and he's a really good guy. So they've been trying to take Morgan out. I don't think civil war is well overblown, but everybody knows there's Blue Labour and there's New Labour, and there's a contestation.
But there's now the growing left in Labour as well.
I don't know. I still don't. I think the growing left is in the Greens, in your party.
But Maurice, the point is the growing left in the Greens and the pro-Gaza mob, they're taking Labour votes.
Yeah, they're taking some Labour votes. I would say that you're taking quite a lot of Labour votes too.
But that's the problem that Labour faces. You've got Reform taking Labour votes in the heartlands.
I think this could work out. I am absolutely sure that the next election is going to be me and Nigel sitting here competing for number 10.
That may well be true, but will Keir Starmer be the leader of the Labour Party?
Well, that I can't say. What I do say...
Oh, I see. So you've lost confidence as well.
No, it's not that at all.
You're not exactly bullish about it, are you?
You can't be, right? After the year and a half we've had, it would be ludicrous of me to sit here. The government's got an identity crisis, that's for sure. It doesn't quite know where it is, that's for sure. What I do know about Keir Starmer is that when he got in, he did purge the Corbynites. He did detoxify Labour.
And people like me admired that.
Right, and people like me admired that very much. Now, that was done with Morgan, that's absolutely correct. What we didn't think, just to let you know, we didn't think that your party would lose like it lost.
No.
So we thought 2019, we've got 2 terms, right?
Everyone thought that with Boris, and he won the majority.
He was going to be there forever, wasn't he?
Do you remember? Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was.
Okay.
But then it didn't happen.
So I'm just going back in time.
Yeah.
So last Parliament, we thought our job was to actually restore the integrity of the Labour Party to being a reasonable organisation. That we did. But then following your budget and those things, there was a catastrophic fall in the Conservatives, which, to be honest, we didn't predict. So a huge amount of the policy work has to be done in office. So I think...
You had 14 years in that position.
No, look at those 14 years. First of all, we had Ed Miliband, so we can count that out for 5 years. Then we had...
You're very loyal, are you, to your own party, really?
I'm very loyal to my party. I want to see Labour. What I'm saying is, the work done then was not serious work for government. Then we had Jeremy Corbyn, which was anti-serious, right?
How did you stick with the party when Corbyn was leader?
No, I support Spurs. I don't care who's the thing. I'm a loyal, faithful person. Labour came to me like the Conservatives were to you. They came with the family. I mean, I'm loyal to Labour. I mean, I'm Jewish. I don't care what the chief rabbi says. I'm not going to change my faith. These are things, aspects of my identity. I am who I am. And I love Labour. I love Ernest Bevin. I love Peter Shaw. I love Barbara Castle. I love those people. They taught me and they formed who I was. I think the Labour Party is a miracle in our country. A conservative, non-revolutionary socialist party. And when the war was on, no one disputed our patriotism.
No. It's a long time ago, Maurice.
It is a long time ago.
Yeah, but for me, it's still vivid in my mind that Labour did that. I also don't think that the Wilson administration was a disgrace. I think there were many serious things that were done.
But look at where we are now.
Well, we are today where we are.
You said the
I'm
Tories...
just saying, you were just asking me about
that is your core as a person.
So, I'm saying that I'm supporting this government and I'm supporting Keir Starmer at the moment because I don't see any alternative to that. And this, to me, with Wes Streeting, is student union politics. So I saw Morgan yesterday. I can tell your viewers, this was nowhere near our conversation.
Well, it was by 7 o'clock last night.
Yeah,
and that's the point.
They're saying it's numbered. Look, this has been bubbling along.
This
and all of that.
No, but the actual analysis.
Isn't the truth of it, Kwasi, that the Labour Party are realising that Starmer just isn't up to it?
So what has happened? You mentioned it earlier in your comments. He's at 13%, which I think is lower than Liz Truss was at her, worst. And so the Labour MPs are terrified that they're going to lose their seats. And when MPs start worrying that they're going to lose their seats, they get very, very focused on changing leader. Yeah. Now, the issue with Labour, if I may say so, is that they don't have the process that we had. For us, it was very easy to get rid of Labour.
Oh, you did it regularly?
Letters. Yeah, we did it all the whole
every
time.
month. Or?
We did it regularly. They don't have that. But it's clear to me that if there was a vote in the parliamentary party...
He'd lose.
He would lose.
Yeah,
and I think if there's a vote with the members, he would lose too.
And linked to that... No, we're going to move on. Linked to that is what I'm about to debate with you after the break.